In today's lecture, we will learn about the Sas Output Delivery System. The Sas Output Delivery System offers great flexibility. It can generate, sort, and reproduce output from Sas procedure or data step along with a wide range of formatting options, including those not available in individual procedures or data steps without the enhancements. The ODS is often used to create reports in Sas Output for popular software applications. You can customize the report contents and presentation using the ODS. The Sas windowing environment has some default settings for the ODS. When the Sas session started, the ODS graphics is enabled, and the HTML destination is open with HTML blue style as default, and output HTML and graph image files are saved in the work folder rather than in your current directory. And those are temporary files which will be deleted after the session is closed. ODS statements can be used to modify the settings. Whenever you make changes to the settings and you'd like to reset it to the default, you can use ODS preferences with no arguments. Sas ODS destinations include Sas formatted and third-party formatted destinations. Sas formatted includes ODS document, Sas output listing, and Sas dataset. The third-party formatted includes EPUB, Excel, HTML, RTF, and more. Let's look at the ODS graphics first. The statement enables or disables ODS graphics processing and sets graphics environment options. You can modify the height, width, and border using the statement. You can also control it to scale the content of the graph, including fonts and markers proportionally with the graph size. The output format for the graph is PNG by default, and you can change it to other formats such as GIF by using option Output FMT. To change back to default, you can use Reset. Let's look at some examples using the sashelp.heart dataset. Here in Sas, I have the Output Delivery System Sas file, which is available on Canvas. The first thing we'll do is create the sashelp.heart dataset, or the heart dataset. We can see that the dataset was read in. The dataset contains 5,209 observations, which exceeds the maximum default number of points graphics will display. Next, let's look at the Proc Reg Statement. When we do the Proc Reg procedure, we will get heat maps rather than a regular plot. And the Fit Diagnostics panel plot won't be part of the output. Notice here in the log we have a warning saying that more than 5,000 points have been suppressed. This can be solved by the plot's max points option. So notice here we're going to set to only work with 1,000 observations. So here we use max points equal to 1,000. The heat map will turn into a scatter plots for residual for weight. Also, the diagnostic panel will be part of the output. We can see that here. We limit the dataset to the first 1,000 observations in the following examples, so we don't have to use this plots option all of the time. The reg procedure will produce one diagnostic panel, one residual, and one fit plot. Next, if we run the ODS graphics off, this will suppress the plot to be printed. So notice here, we do not have any of the plots. When we use another ODS graphics statement, after we turn it off, it will automatically turn on. We don't have to specify on after ODS graphics. Here we return to the Sas code. Running this portion of the code, In this example, we modify the size of the graphs and give them different names by using the height, width, and image name option. And we can see that right here. Next, running this piece of code, the border off, no border option will remove the border of the graphs. So notice when we say the border of the graphs, we're talking about this portion right here. The plots unpack equal all will unpack the panel plot. So scrolling up, all of these were previously in the panel plot. Reset all will help to reset all the default settings. If you want to only reset partial customize options, you will need to list them. So if you want to only reset the image name, you just list image name there. ODS layout can be used to display graphs in a customized layout. We'll look at the Sas code to create the layout that you see here on the slides. Here in this example, we will make the layout into 2 columns and define the width to be 10 inches with a 0.5 inch gutter. We can see that here in this line of code. Also, looking at the code, notice that this code right here will create column 1, and this code right here will create column 2. So let's go ahead and run all of the code. We want to display the plot for weight on height on the left and display the plot for weight on cholesterol on the right. ODS region will help us control what to put in each of the columns. Under the first ODS region, we select the fit plot for weight on height to be displayed. The first time we only change the size. The second time we also set the scale to be off. So notice scale off here. We can see points on the bottom left plot are larger than on the top left plot. Under the second ODS region, we select the fit plot for the weight on cholesterol level to be displayed. We can see with a border off option here, the top right plot does not have the border. And again, we can see that around here. HTML destination is set to open by default in the Sas windowing environment. The ODS HTML statement can open, manage, or close the destination. The key components are action and options. There are 4 actions: close, exclude, select, and show. Close will close the destination. Exclude or select will exclude, only display the chosen items. Show writes the selection or exclusion list in the log. There are some options we can use. Path specifies the location for the HTML files, if you want to save it as an external file. Gpath specifies the location for all graphics output. Style specifies a style template to use in writing output files. Text inserts text into your document. Let's look at some examples. We will use proc print procedure to print the first 2 observations. So we could run that here. In test 2, we'll use the ODS output show statement. And we can see in the log it adds 2 rows to the log. So running test 2, notice here is the test 2 output. But if we look in the log, we can see between test 1, which is only these 3 lines, here in test 2 we have the additional lines. Current HTML select list is set to default value all, and current overall select list is all. This tells us that all output by the procedure will be displayed in the HTML destination. Without ODS show in test 1, there are 2 rows in the log that are not printed for the test 1 example. If we use the select exclude option on certain tables, the message will be different. We will look at an example with the ODS exclude/select. In test 3, we applied a different style. So the style we use here is called monospace. We can see for test 3, this table is narrower than test 1 and test 2. And by the end, we changed the style back to the default one for HTML, which is HTML blue. And also by the end, we closed the HTML destination. Let's look at some more examples. If we want to save the HTML, we can specify a location by path option. By default, Sas HTML with a number starting from 1 as the file name will be saved under the location. ODS HTML close tells Sas to stop output to the file and close the destination. So here we can run example 1. Notice here we will need to give an output path for where you want to save this on your computer. So this is an old path, so I'm going to change this over to the path for my computer. And I can do that by deleting out what is here in the quotations and then pasting in my file path. Right, running the code. Now here we have the folder on my computer where I set that path to, and you can see that file has been created. Next, let's look at example 2. So the proc print procedure in example 2, following the ODS HTML close, will not generate any output in the results viewer, and the log will display a warning message as no output destinations are active. We can see that here. Since we closed the HTML destination and didn't open other destinations, no output for example 2 will be generated. Now, in example 3, we will reopen the HTML destination and generate a new file with a customized file name as new file by using the file option. So new file.htm will be saved under the defined location. In example 4, we will use ODS preferences to reset the system to default option. This will stop outputting new HTML files to path we defined earlier, since the system is reset to default and the default location is the working directory. So in the output location now, you should have 2 HTML files, one for example 1 and one for example 3. Another useful destination is RTF, which can be used with Microsoft Word. We use ODS RTF statement for it. Actions are the same as HTML. Some options such as file, style, and title are the same as we have introduced before. There are some other options I'd like to show for ODS RTF. Sas date writes to the RTF file the time and the date that you started your current Sas session. Without it, the date shown in the RTF file will be whenever you open the file. Body title tells Sas to put titles and footnotes into the body of the document instead of into the headers and footer sections. Start page controls the page breaks. The option orientation changes the orientation of the output file. Before running the code, there are a couple file paths that you'll want to change. The first one is located here. Notice that you'll want to change up to the name of the file. You'll want to do the same here. All right, next we'll run the code for this slide. Landscape is applied here to fit wider tables. Title and footnote are added to the output file into the header and the footer sections. File option tells SAS to generate a file called RTF_2 under the specified path. We applied seaside style to the document, and we will tell SAS that we'd like the session date to be outputted to the file. The start page equals no tells SAS to put the results from two procedures on the same page. We have to close the destination first, then we can open the output file to view. If you don't add ODS RTF close, there will be a document with 0 size in the folder and you won't be able to see anything. After running the file, you should have a Word document that looks something like this. We will continue the example. Running the code. Before running the code, do make sure that you change the file path just like before. Now we can run it. To put title and footnote in the body, we use body title option. This won't change the SAS date time, it will still be in the header section. And so notice here is the Word document or the RTF file that should be created. A popular destination is PDF, which can be read by Adobe and other applications. Similar to RTF, close action is needed to view the output. Optional arguments I'd like to introduce here are contents, note talk, columns, color, and compress. And some other optional arguments we have learned before that can be applied to ODS PDF. Some of the arguments we learn here can be applied to other ODS statements. Contents controls the generation of a printable table of contents. No talk or no table of contents omits the table of contents bookmark list that is produced by the default when producing PDF output. Column specifies the number of columns to create on each page. Color applies a color scheme to the output. We only have full, gray, mono, no, and yes. And compress controls the size of the file. 6 is default and 9 is the maximum level. Let's look at the first example, which is on compress option. We will see without compress, PDF2 is larger than PDF1. For larger documents, the compress option could be somewhat useful to reduce the file size. Here we'll first run the output, but again, we need to change our file path up to the file name. And so you notice the code is going to create two different PDFs. So we'll run the code. In the folder you specified, you should now see two PDFs. Notice one has a larger file size compared to the second. If we want to display results in multiple columns on the same page, we can use the columns option. Again, you'll want to change your path. Running the code for this slide. In this example, we separated the page into two columns. The result from the first procedure Proc Reg is displayed on the left column 1, and the results from the second are displayed on the right column 2. You can see these by scrolling down in the PDF. The Proc label statement enables you to change the procedure label, which is used as a label for the table of contents and the bookmark. So you'll see the bookmarks here and the table of contents here. ODS proc title, no proc title, turns the title for the procedure on and off, and we can see the freq procedure has title and the means procedure does not in the output. And so again, looking at the code, we can see all the different pieces here. In this example, we would change the output color to be gray in the PDF by using the color option. Looking at the code for this slide, we'll first again change the path to the path on our computer. And then next we'll run this code for this slide. Here we use the G-chart procedure to produce 3 bar charts on car markers by highway miles per gallon. There are more markers for mid-highway miles per gallon range than high or low, so the display in landscape layout makes more sense. We apply the option orientation equals landscape for the middle range and then change it back to portrait for the low miles per gallon. We can see from the output for 30 miles per gallon or higher and 19 miles per gallon or lower, the orientation is portrait for the range. 20 to 29, the orientation is landscape. So notice here we have the 30 miles per gallon or higher, we have the portrait. 20 to 29, we have the landscape, and 19 or lower, we have the portrait again. ODS trace writes to the Sas log a record of each output object that is created or suppresses the writing of the record. Next, we'll look at the Sas code for this slide. First, run the proc univariate statement. The default for ODS trace is off. We can see that the log from the first procedure doesn't have details for the output objects. When we turn it on, Sas log will contain detailed information for each output. And so here we have it turned on. And we can see the detailed information for each of those. If when running the code, you receive an error that says no output destination is found, you may need to add the following in. Notice here in the log, this output is useful because it can help us identify what we want to exclude or include. Next, let's look at an example for ODS show. First, let's run the example 1 code. From the example 1 log, we can see that the first ODS show at line 443 indicated that the select list is all. The second ODS show at line 449 indicate the select list is only the basic measures we specify in the ODS select. Next, let's run the example 2 code. For example 2 log, we can see that the first ODS show at line 449 suggests the select list is all. This indicates that ODS select in the previous procedure doesn't have impact on later procedures. We then add an ODS exclude outside the procedure. The ODS show at line 452 suggests that we exclude quantiles and extreme observation. This would only impact the following procedure. So if we repeat the proc univariate twice after the ODS exclude statement, quantiles and extreme obs tables will only be excluded for the first time. The second time, you will have all the default table output to the viewer. ODS select exclude cannot be used together with no print. To illustrate this, we can run this code. No print will suppress all output, so there is nothing to be selected or excluded. You will see a warning message, as the selected output was not created. If we'd like to save the output table to a Sas dataset, we can use the ODS output statement. We'll first run the code for slide 21. Same as ODS select exclude, ODS output cannot be used together with no print. However, as we have mentioned before in Descriptive Statistics lecture, no print can be used together with the output statement. Here we use ODS output to save the basic measures into Sas dataset, weight mean 1, and use the output statement to save selected statistics into dataset weight all. Weight mean 2 is not created due to no print option, so the dataset weight mean 2 does not exist. We talked briefly on ODS escape car and creating spaces and format in the Proc Tabulate lecture. In this lecture, we will learn more usage of it. Other than creating space, it can also help to specify style element, writing superscript text, and insert page numbers and insert lines. Here are some examples of an ODS escape character. In example 1, we create a title as summary statistics for car weight by using the ODS PDF text statement. We define the title to be 16 point and centered. This is done by using the character with style elements. In example 2, we add 5 lines in between 2 tables. This is done by using ODS PDF text statement with a caret 5in. In example 3, we add 1 space between summary and statistic to separate the 2 words from different lines in the Sas code. In example 4, we add 10 lines by using caret new line 10 within the ODF PDF text and create a text with superscript in different styles in the same line. In example 5, we use a different way to define the same style we see in example 4. In example 6, we use the caret to add page 1 of page 1 as a footnote, so the footnote will change. If we have 2 pages, and on page 1 we will see page 1 of 2, and on page 2 we will see page 2 of 2. The this page and last page are considered as Sas variables. This is an extra example with more customized text with or without the customized style. To create your own style, you can use Proc template and adapt Sas style. When you finish, you can delete the style. You can test this example on your own based on the comments to compare with the output attached to the next slide. There are many ODS elements we didn't cover in this lecture. Please let me know if you have any questions.